It was just a rock. That was the last thought that crossed Commander Vrax's mind before the detonation. Before the shockwave ripped through his command deck, before his warship, a marvel of Zhorath engineering, an instrument of pure devastation, was ripped apart by an explosion so primitive, so crude, it defied reason. It was just a rock, wasn't it? That's what they had thought about humans too. Primitive, backward, emotion-driven. A species still clinging to metal projectiles and fossil fuel combustion, still reliant on fire to cook food like savages from a forgotten age. The Zhorath Dominion had swept across the stars, dominating entire civilizations with cold efficiency, replacing their weakness with order, their chaos with obedience. Humanity was meant to be the same. Another conquest, another statistic. Instead, they found madmen. The war should have ended in a single orbital bombardment. The first strike hit Earth's military installations, melted entire continents into glowing wastelands. The second wave landed with cybernetic war machines, adaptive AI legions programmed to subjugate, process, and assimilate. Every model predicted total pacification within 72 hours. And yet, humanity refused to play by the rules. They fought with sticks and stones, and the stones exploded. They hijacked Zhorath warships with screwdrivers. They repurposed farming equipment into railguns. And worst of all, they laughed while doing it. No other species had ever laughed while dying. Commander Vrax had studied war for centuries. He had never encountered a species more frustrating, more infuriating, more damnably obstinate than humans. When their armies were crushed, they turned to insurgency. When their insurgencies were stamped out, they turned to sabotage. When their cities burned, they built tunnels beneath the ashes. And when the Zhorath fleets blocked out their sun, humanity simply said, "We've got flashlights." Now, on the bridge of his mothership, Vrax watched as his empire's most glorious warship, the heart of the invasion, was being undone by human hands. The security footage was flickering, feed cut by something absurdly primitive. A virus? Number radio interference. Humans had jacked into their systems using outdated analog tech, a method the Dominion had long abandoned. Who the hell still used wires? And then there was the rock. Vrax had seen it on the surveillance feed, one of the human infiltrators, wounded, staggering, lifting his arm to hurl a small, insignificant gray stone at the bridge's command core. It had no heat signature, no energy signature, no logical threat whatsoever. Vrax had sneered, "It's just a rock." Then it detonated. Everything burned. The shields failed instantly, overloaded by a cascading chain reaction. The reactor core, designed to withstand planetary assaults, was now spitting fire like a wounded beast. The Zhorath mothership, once the embodiment of military perfection, was now being torn apart by a handful of humans and their absurdly low-tech explosives. As the command deck crumbled around him, as the screams of his officers filled the air, Vrax realized something horrifying. They weren't fighting a species. They were fighting a disease. Humanity wasn't a civilization to be conquered. It was a plague. Uncontrollable, unpredictable, and impossible to eradicate. Vrax's last thoughts weren't of victory or glory or even vengeance. Just a rock. And then, everything turned to fire. The sky was burning. Captain Elias Mercer had seen some bad days in his career. He'd been shot, stabbed, concussed, buried alive once, long story, and even spent 3 weeks trapped behind enemy lines with nothing but a malfunctioning sidearm and a packet of stale protein bars. But this was shaping up to be an entirely new category of bad. Above the ruins of New Zurich, the clouds churned with fire and falling debris. The Zhorath fleet had turned Earth's atmosphere into an open incinerator. their orbital strikes melting entire districts into slag. Where there had once been skyscrapers, there were now craters lined with molten steel. Where there had been millions of civilians, well, don't think about that, Mercer. He adjusted his rifle strap and exhaled, scanning the jagged skyline for movement. The city was dead quiet. That was bad. Silence in a war zone meant you were already dead and just hadn't noticed yet. Mercer, we're at the entry point. Sasha Renner's voice crackled over comms. She was the best damn hacker in what was left of the human race, and if this mission was going to work, it was because of her. Patrol just passed. We move now. Mercer tapped his earpiece and signaled his team. 6 people. That's all they had left. 6 humans against the most advanced war machine in the galaxy. No pressure. They sprinted through the ruins, past the blackened skeletons of buildings, avoiding the glowing craters where energy bombs had turned entire streets to glass. The Zhorath didn't use bullets. They didn't need to. Their weapons disassembled matter at the molecular level, which was an unnecessarily fancy way of saying instant disintegration. One hit, and you cease to exist, which made fighting them horribly unfair, but also kind of fun. The target was ahead, a Zhorath supply station, lightly guarded, supposedly low priority. Mercer had learned early in the war that low priority was just military speak for, please, for the love of God, blow this up. They had one goal: steal a Zhorath dropship, spoof its transponder, and ride it straight into the belly of the enemy's mothership. Idiotic? Absolutely. Necessary? No question. They reached the compound's perimeter, 3 guards, tall, ugly, and wrapped in that smug sense of invincibility all Zhorath officers seemed to have. Mercer unhooked an old-world relic from his belt, a knife. A simple stainless steel, sharpened-to-hell knife. The aliens had energy shields, plasma armor, drones, neural-linked battle algorithms, but none of them had ever fought a human with a knife and bad intentions. He was on them in seconds. The first one barely had time to react before Mercer drove the blade between the plates of its armor, twisting deep. The second reached for its rifle, but a single suppressed shot from Renner took care of that. The third? He tried to run. Mercer didn't let him. "Clear," Renner said. "You really do love that knife." Mercer wiped the blade on the fallen alien's uniform. They keep making these force fields and drones and AI weapons, but you know what they don't ever expect. Renner sighed. "I swear, if you say, a guy with a knife, you're insufferable." The team moved in, bypassing security with a mix of Zhorath tech and human stubbornness. Renner worked her magic, slicing into the control systems using a hacked-together mess of cables and an old radio transceiver. High-tech security. Meet low-tech human ingenuity. "Ship's fueled and ready," she said. "AI still thinks we're friendly. How long until they notice?" As if on cue, the alarms screamed. Red lights flashed. The voice of an angry Zhorath A. I snarled through the facility's speakers. "Well," Mercer muttered, "I'd say right about now." Gunfire erupted from the far end of the hangar. Zhorath reinforcements. A lot of them. The dropship was 20 meters away. Between them and Salvation stood a platoon of bio-augmented alien killers. Mercer cracked his neck. "Here we go again." The inside of the Zhorath dropship smelled like burnt plastic and arrogance. Mercer ignored the acrid tang, gripping the stolen controls as they punched through the upper atmosphere. The stolen transponder still read, "Friendly unit." So far, no alarms. No orbital defenses locking on. No screaming alien officers demanding to know why a human was piloting their ship. Yet. Renner sat next to him, fingers flying over the terminal. She was halfway between a miracle worker and a lunatic, which made her perfect for this kind of operation. "This is insane," she muttered. eyes flicking across the Zhorath interface. We should be dead. We should be vaporized. The fact that we're not means they either haven't noticed us yet, or they're laughing at the primitive primates trying to sneak into their god-killing mothership, Mercer offered. Renner gave him a flat look. Not helping. Below them, Earth was a scarred battlefield. The Zhorath had made sure of that. Even from orbit, Mercer could see the deep, blackened chasms where entire cities had once stood. They hadn't come to conquer. They'd come to exterminate. And the worst part? It made sense. To the Zhorath, humans were an anomaly. Too unpredictable, too emotional, too damn stubborn. Their empire ran on efficiency and logic. But humans were a freak accident of the universe. A species that should have rolled over and died like every other conquest. But instead, they kept finding stupid, reckless ways to survive. Like now. The mothership loomed ahead, a floating monstrosity of black metal and writhing bioorganic plating. It wasn't just a ship, it was a city, a fortress, a world killer. Its main weapon could shatter a planet in a single shot. Mercer clenched his jaw. They were planning to use it. Earth wasn't just losing, it was about to be erased. And here they were, 6 humans, a stolen ship, and a plan held together by duct tape and pure spite. A voice, cold, clipped, definitely alien, filtered through the comms. Dropship X-12, state your cargo and authorization for unscheduled return. Renner froze, looked at Mercer. Oh, right. They needed to talk. Mercer toggled the comm. Affirmative. Command. Returning with prisoners. A pause. Then, prisoners? Yeah, Mercer said, leaning in. Prisoners. Filthy humans. Got 'em right here. Squealing. Disgusting. Renner put a hand over her face. The others in the back of the ship just stared. Transmit verification codes, the Zhorath ordered. Mercer nudged Renner. Tell me we have verification codes. Tell me you're not the dumbest person alive, she shot back, typing furiously. Silence. Then the console dinged. Accepted, the Zhorath said. Proceed. They actually bought it. The ship docked, magnetic clamps latching onto the hull. The moment the doors hissed open, Mercer's squad moved fast. Silenced shots, quick knife work. The first 3 Zhorath guards never had a chance. Then they were inside. Corridors hummed with biomechanical energy. Alien sigils pulsed across walls that seemed to breathe. Renner tapped into a terminal, fingers working at inhuman speed. Got it, she whispered. Navigation grid. Reactor core is 6 decks down. Security's tight. Mercer checked his rifle. Then we're getting loud. Alarms exploded. The entire mothership came alive, screaming intruder alerts. Automated turrets dropped from the ceiling. Zhorath enforcers poured in. The first wave hit hard. Plasma bolts scorched the walls, melted steel into slag. Mercer's team moved like ghosts, using tight corners, high ground, old human tactics the Zhorath AI couldn't predict. A grenade, one of theirs, found its mark. The corridor became a fireball. The mission was working, but they had to move. Fast. The Zhorath command center was not designed to withstand small, angry humans with explosives. Mercer ran, half-crouched, through the smoke-filled corridor, boots pounding against biometal plating. His rifle was overheating. His lungs burned. Renner was right behind him, hacking on the move, somehow swearing in 3 different languages, while dodging plasma fire. Behind them, a lot of very angry Zhorath. Ahead, the reactor core. It loomed at the end of the corridor, an enormous pulsing sphere of unstable energy, suspended in a tangle of alien conduits and containment fields. The heart of the mothership. The place where all that beautifully advanced Zhorath technology converged into one very, very vulnerable target. Mercer shouldered into cover as another burst of plasma fire melted the wall beside him. A Zhorath enforcer lunged forward, its sleek exosuit gleaming, its clawed hands raised for a killing blow. Mercer responded with a point-blank shotgun blast to the face. The enforcer's helmet split like a dropped melon. It staggered back, screeching in a language Mercer didn't understand, nor did he care. Another shot put it down. "Okay," Renner huffed. "I see one small problem with this plan." Mercer checked his ammo. "Only one?" "The part where we don't actually have a way to set off a chain reaction." Mercer exhaled. "Right." A pause. Then Renner groaned. "Don't say it." "What?" "I can hear the stupid idea forming in your brain." Mercer reached into his belt pouch and pulled out a small gray rock. Renner stared. "You absolute moron. Look, it worked last time. That was a grenade disguised as a rock." "Yeah, well..." Mercer turned the stone over in his palm. "Maybe they won't be able to tell the difference." Renner didn't even dignify that with a response. Instead, she reached into her own pack, pulled out an actual explosive, and started wiring it to the reactor's coolant relay. "I hate you so much." "I know." More Zhorath were coming. He could hear them, clawed feet against the metal, weapons humming the rising screech of their war cries. Mercer braced, reloading, checking the countdown timer on the bomb. 90 seconds. He could work with that. Then the entire corridor shook. The walls rippled. The air itself hummed with a frequency that made his bones ache. The temperature dropped instantly, frost creeping along the walls as something big approached. And then he saw it. Commander Vrax. The Vrax. Not through a screen, not as a distant enemy, but in the flesh. All 9 feet of him, wrapped in ornate warlord armor, his cybernetic limbs pulsing with energy conduits, his 4 eyes burning with rage. The commander strode forward, exuding the cold confidence of a being that had never lost a battle in its entire existence. "You have fought well," Vrax said, voice like a thunderstorm. "For lesser creatures." Mercer wiped blood from his mouth. "Yeah? And you talk a lot for someone about to get blown to hell." Vrax bared razor-sharp teeth. "You think a crude explosive will save your species." Mercer tossed the rock in his hand, caught it. "Nah, I think this will." Vrax's eyes flicked to it. "It's just a rock." Boom! The charge went off, ripping through the coolant pipes. The reactor shuddered, containment fields flickering. Vrax barely had time to snarl before Mercer threw the actual grenade, right at his smug alien face. The world went white. Then, fire. Then nothing at all. The fire had long since burned out, but the sky was still scarred, a blackened void where the Zhorath mothership had once loomed over Earth like a god's hammer. Now, nothing left but debris, smoldering wreckage, and a very satisfying silence. Mercer sat on a chunk of fallen concrete, watching the sunrise. It was the first time in months the light wasn't blocked by warships, plasma storms, or the overwhelming certainty of death. It was nice. Weird. But nice. He tossed a small gray rock between his fingers, smirking to himself. Renner dropped down next to him, brushing soot from her jacket. "So, any regrets?" Mercer tilted his head, pretending to think. "Well, I'm down to my last 2 bullets, my ribs are probably broken, and I haven't slept in, I don't know, a month?" He looked at her. "But on the plus side, I got to blow up the biggest warship in the galaxy with a rock." Renner exhaled through her nose, somewhere between a laugh and an exhausted sigh. "You're never going to shut up about that, are you?" "Absolutely not." Above them, the Zhorath fleet was running. No, not retreating. Running. The Dominion never retreated. They eliminated threats, erased problems, reorganized disorderly elements. But this was something else. Word had spread. The humans had killed a high commander. They had destroyed a flagship. With a rock. Mercer could imagine the War Council meetings. How do you fight an enemy that doesn't know when to die? How do you defeat creatures who turn farm tools into railguns and throw pebbles like they're weapons of mass destruction? The answer apparently was, you don't. You leave. There was movement in the rubble. Survivors, crawling out of the wreckage. Not many, but enough. They were dirty, tired, battered, but alive. Some carried makeshift weapons. Others had scavenged alien rifles. They looked at Mercer, at Renner, at the sky now empty of enemy warships, and they started to understand. They had won. A few feet away, a Zhorath corpse lay half-buried in debris. One of the officers, maybe a captain, the exosuit was cracked open, exposing sickly pale flesh, burnt from the explosion. Mercer stood, stretched, and walked over. He stared down at the alien's expression, frozen in disbelief. He bent down, plucked a loose Zhorath rank pin from the body, and tossed it to Renner. Souvenir. She caught it, turned it over in her hand. Morbid. Yeah, but historical. A voice crackled over a salvaged comm unit. One of the resistance leaders, barely breathing but very much alive. Did we just win? Mercer looked around at the shattered city, at the bodies, at the sky that belonged to humans again. Yeah, he said. I think we did. A pause. Then a laugh. Then another. Then the whole damn city was laughing. Broken, wounded, exhausted, but laughing. Because they were still here, and the Zhorath weren't. Because somewhere out there, the most powerful empire in the known galaxy was terrified of a species that threw rocks. Mercer leaned back against the rubble, watching the sun rise. He turned the rock over in his palm, feeling its weight. Just a rock, he muttered. He laughed. And that, my friends, is another testament to humanity's unrivaled ingenuity. If you enjoyed this story, smash that like button. It fuels the algorithm and lets me know you want more. Drop a comment below with your favorite moment. And of course, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and join us for the next story. Stay awesome, stay defiant, and we'll see you in the next invasion.